Well, hello, everybody. How are you doing? It's me, Peerless Drew. I'm going to transform this guy. He's really complicated. I probably saw the video. So this is Studio Series 66 Overload, the final component of Devastator, if you don't count Skipjack, and I don't. Someone was like, Skipjack, the leg's supposed to be yellow. And they're like, well, they should have released it then. They should have released that color first. I'm not buying alternate colors. I saw Skipjack today, and I passed on it. I was tempted for a second. This is like the I-beam that the scavenger locks onto. I think it's kind of meant to look like the rotating point for a articulated dump truck. This is supposed to be an articulated dump truck. As you can see, it's not articulated. You could probably mess with somebody by, shooting like something like that, where like, well, look, it's turned, but it's just a lie. Anyway, so that's that. We'll transform it. It's not too complicated. This won't be a long live stream, I don't think. This comes up and slides over, and then this it plugs in here. There's actually paint coming off of this because of where it plugs in. And this tabs in there. It kind of fits before you get to the splitting the arms apart, but and then this whole thing, you flip the wheels up. This whole thing actually has like a little bit of a click, and the head rotates around like this. And what's interesting is before you rotate this, they've made it so the head's kind of locked in place. It's got like a little Pac-Man. You see the little Pac-Man there? There's a little Pac-Man. And it catches, and it prevents the head from moving while it's... I don't see the point of that, but whatever. So the head flips up. The legs he ends up kind of bent over at the waist initially, so you do have to kind of rotate his hips a little bit. You flip these wheels all the way around. There's like a little set of hooks there, and they actually get caught on the edge of the slot that the hips cut into. So I think that's where it's supposed to home, just right there. This is completely variable. You can pull it all the way out for dynamicness. Dynamicness. It's a new word. This flips around here. Home's the same way. What's up, Holmes? This, the grill of the truck. I kind of had to transform this guy twice because, frankly, the truck mode is much closer to the pelvis mode than the robot mode is. So you have to kind of go to the robot mode and then kind of go all the way back to get to pelvis. But he stands pretty good. He's got these that flip out to kind of help him from over tipping, but I don't think he would anyway. He's pretty good. And then you flip these down. I like to flip them down just like one notch to the first stop because I like to keep them at an angle. As you can see, it kind of lines up nicely here if you kind of keep that angle. And then this tabs in there, and we'll get to that when we go to combined mode. This extracts. It kind of tabs here. It's more of a guidance tab. It doesn't really tab in hard. And then when this goes in here, there's like a point where it kind of locks. And it is supposed to be kind of at an angle when you're not in robot mode. This is the same way. Just flips around and you can arrange it however you want to. But it's kind of a cool looking robot mode. There's an even crazier version of him in the concept art. I don't think either way they just picked a concept art to make this toy out of, because I don't think this guy was in the movie. But there he is. There's his robot mode. He's not very complicated for a Voyager class figure, I think in part because they wanted him to be really sturdy for the combined mode. I have no idea how Devil Savior is going to pull off this critical piece. But I don't know. The head is crazy to transform with that Devil Savior Mixmaster that I did. It's crazy to transform that thing, but it looks like it would be solid once it was locked in. The combination port on it is very, very big, very solid. Yeah, I'll say that with an asterisk, Shark. He has to or Jur? I don't know. The statistics on my YouTube say that it's like 98% dudes. So I'll just assume dude. If you're a lady, you just pipe up if I call you a dude. I'm going to assume Shark's a dude. So anyway, this guy asks, does the combined mode live up to your expectations? And I'll say yes, but only because my expectations weren't super high. It's cool that you get a mainline set of figures that actually combine into that crazy Devastator from Revenge of the Fallen. But I think Devil Savior is going to be a lot better looking. It's going to look more scale. This, you can see all the hollow bits and some screw or peg holes, and it's a cheaper designed set of figures, so it is what it is. But I think it'll be fine. It'll sit on a shelf real good. So we'll do combined mode, and I'll show some pointers. I didn't really want to. It's hard to manipulate figures in midair and keep everything so still that you can actually make sense of anything I'm trying to demonstrate in terms of plugging things together. So this live stream will serve as an opportunity to really kind of explain the combination steps. But we're just going down an extra step there. I don't think they're worried about this disarticulating once you're done, but they do give you a locking mechanism that absolutely prevents it and kind of closes off the front too. So I don't know if it's ornamental or structural. It's one or the other. This whole thing is bent. I kind of bend it in robot mode too, but it's bent. So let's get rid of I just want to discuss the way this thing plugs in. So for vehicle mode, this goes straight, and this plugs in with this, like with the hook sticking up, because there's no place else for the hook to go at that point. But it plugs into that hole, right? And then in combined mode, all you're doing is reversing this, and you're plugging the peg into the other hole, and that just kind of holds it together. There's actually there's like a hook clip. So it does clip onto this part of the arm, which just kind of stays put away just like vehicle mode. So we're going to do the same thing for the other side. Put this away. It does kind of lock, kind of. This stays hooked and plugs in here, and again there's a clip that catches a piece there, so it kind of locks together. And again, you've got this kind of safety thing that prevents the leg. See, I think it's pretty immobile at that point anyway, so I think if anything this just kind of fills in that gap. That's my theory, at least. When you're going to combined mode, you just one thing to bear in mind is the robot head would face you. This is the direction you want to be in, and all this mess is supposed to be in the front, because here's the grooves for sliding the legs on, which we'll get to in a minute. I just kind of snuck them on in the video, right? So this comes out like this, and you can put the heel spurs away, and you can kind of just it's almost like you go back to vehicle mode, but you just kind of set them up like that. They can be a little more aligned with the tilted forward pelvis. That's fine, no big deal. The head flips up, just out of the way, just so you don't have like a head in his crotch, which would just be weird. And then these flip out straight sideways, and then this comes up. This actually plugs in there, and it kind of fills in over there. And you just kind of spread the legs out as far as possible to make room for them later. And frankly, I'm going to have to double check, because I have forgotten already whether or not you rotate the wheels back. So let's just see here. Survey says, yeah, you flip the wheels up. All right, then. It seems kind of trivial, but we're going to flip the wheels up and re-peg them there. And here. And you can tell because it's flat here if you get it lined up right. So, all right, we got that ready to go. So let's discuss some of the stuff that we didn't get to convey in a video with pieces flying around. It's impractical. So this side, the wide one, is for the dump truck guy, and you're just trying to slot this around those two L-shaped brackets, and it really squeezes the leg together when you do it, so just be prepared to just really squeeze the leg and make room for it. This guy, sorry he's not Skipjack, but he's the first one they released and the only one I'm going to own. This guy also has, in this case, a T-beam built into him. This flips just out of the way. I thought it was going to like interface with the leg more or something, but it totally doesn't. But this just slides into that slot as well. That's it. So now we've got the legs. I found this one just works better. He poses better if you get this to click all the way back. This leg, that joint is handled by just a friction joint. And so you just do the best you can with it. You can spread the legs out a little bit, and also you have to rotate the hips forward. So I kind of go with that for the articulation of the legs. And with that, I guess we'll just move everything up. Shine some light near the top. So this part, easier just to kind of get it out of the way for now. So I'm just kind of flattening it down out of the way. This guy, when transformed properly, he has the T-shaped slot, and of course we have the big T-shaped beam here. So we're just interfacing those two components. I mean, it really locks together pretty well. It just doesn't balance great. It has its issues. And then we can kind of straighten this back up. We want to just make sure that we're not getting in the way of our efforts to put the head on. So we do the head. This part will fall off constantly. It serves almost no purpose, other than they didn't know what to do with the front of the truck, so they got lazy. But this is the head. These two posts here have like big cylinders, and those are actually going to plug in to the inside of the wheel here. And then these clips are meant to capture these right here and here. So it's easier to kind of plug the wheels in and then kind of rock it back onto those clips. So we'll try to do that now. If you'll lean forward for me and not fall over. Not fall over is the impossible ask. But we're just going to get this in here. Just trying to line up these posts. You have to kind of let the truck wheels spread out a little bit to get them to plug. Come on, buddy. Yeah. And I don't know, these clips kind of happen simultaneously if everything's lined up properly. That's that part. This rises up here and the head kind of holds it up. And then these parts just kind of fill out the chest kind of around him. So that is the correct placement for that. You can put on the stupid wheel thing, which in this case I'm turning around the right way since there was a bit of debate about that. But apparently you're supposed to see the grill from the front. There's this extra part that comes with overload. It doesn't really hook on. You move the smokestacks out of the way. It kind of slots around there, and then you can kind of put the smokestack stacks back to kind of hold it in place. But it's just an ornament. And then, ooh, come on, buddy. This is where this ankle has to be kind of rocked back to hold up. And then you got this arm. Just plugs into this slot there. There's a bit of a clip that's supposed to catch it. May not catch it entirely. Kind of does. It's not going to fall out anyway. But you get the arm the way you want it. Then there's this big arm, which I have put the claw on backwards. I mean, the whole claw thing is kind of dumb. I don't like it. Because you can still see the robot's head. It's just kind of dumb. I hope Devil Savior does it a little better than that. But this one also goes in here. And he's not I mean, he's got articulation. I mean, you can do stuff with the arms and stuff, but the big problem is the ankles can't really... you could do that crouched forward sort of gorilla look, but the problem is the head doesn't actually tilt up. So you'd have to kind of float the head somehow to do that pose. But this is the extent of him. We'll see if we can pull the camera back and give you the full view. He's pretty big. I don't know what I can compare him to that would be common. This is a basic class figure, classic basic. These days it's about the size of a deluxe. It's a little smaller than a deluxe. But, you know, he's pretty big. I mean, he's made out of a Voyager, a Leader, a Voyager, Deluxe, another Voyager. And so he's made out of 8 components. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. You know, he's pretty big and impressive. Let's get some... I mean, you can just watch the turnaround on the video, but since we're live, let me just move some endless pile of shit out of the way. Sorry, I cursed. I'm not supposed to curse. It's against the rules. But, you know, the back seems a little unfinished because of the way they just kind of put these together. I don't know if that's supposed to look like the output, but it doesn't actually line up with his head, so it doesn't seem like it would be the output. But I'll probably display him in this mode. I mean, all the regular robot modes are really pretty good. In fact, they didn't really skimp on those very much. The robot modes are really presentable. The vehicle modes can be a little iffy, especially when you get to, like, well, this guy doesn't much look like an articulated loader, and there's some compromises made to vehicle mode. Some mode has to be compromised if you're going to have a triple changer. That's basically what any combiner is. It's a triple changer. All right. So that's pretty much the whole thing. Let's see if anyone said anything interesting. Oh, well, I'm sorry you haven't seen me in a bit. Well, that's the thing, bro. That gives me yet another opportunity to explain myself to the general public. I get people that ask me, the question was, you ever consider getting one of the Flame Toys high-end figures for a stop motion? I'm not, strictly speaking, a stop motion guy. My interest is in working out the cleanest transformation I can. For stuff like this, it's not too explanatory because this is not a complicated series of figures. But when you get into something like Ultra Maximus or any complex like MP44, there's maybe, in my opinion, a right way to transform it. A way that I settle on is like the cleanest, nothing bumping into anything else when possible. And so I want to present the transformation process or the sequence the way that I envision it. And I can either do it like a reviewer where I'm holding the figure and, you know, with my hands in the way, which isn't too bad. I mean, if you've seen that one guy that does like quick transform or whatever he calls it, he does a really good job of, you know, showing the transformation with his hands in the frame. But I was sick of reviewers that would be like, okay, now the most important thing is when you do this head, you got to turn it just like this, okay? So it's got to be like, you know, it's just like, Jesus, guys. Take another take. Edit it. Do something in post. So I was like, you know what? I started fiddling around with a little stop motion program on my cell phone, and it wasn't too hard to do. I got my head around it pretty well, but I really like to static, like isolate the figure and have just one part move, because it's like an instructional video or like a video manual. So I'm not quite as interested, especially with things like this. I mean, people that do stop motion, I mean, it looks slick. I mean, I've seen, I count frames a lot. So someone will do like a stop motion of Bumblebee turning into from the car to the robot, you know, and fighting and doing all kinds of stop motion stuff. Not really my bag, but it's not all that hard to do either, because the transformation is like 5 discrete frames. So it looks cool because everything's happening at once, and it stands up, and maybe, you know, they make sure that he's kind of standing, going in the process of standing. But that's not my bag. I'm not doing stop motion per se. I'm doing video manuals using the medium of stop motion. Sometimes I do a little something at the end, but I'm generally not interested in increasing my production time. I mean, you see these guys who do stop motion, they don't make a stop motion video every week, because they spend a little more time planning and maybe rotoscoping, which is basically tracing on top of a reference video. So like you know, I could do like a dance, and then I could put it into my stop motion program and stop motion something to match my movements in the dance, and then you'd have a nice smooth little stop motion of the robot dancing. It's not my main interest, and I'm trying to make a video every week, so I can't go screwing around a lot. So no, I'm not going to do stop motion videos of non-transforming figures, or even transforming videos in terms of like animated stop motion. Overload was in the movie, but it was only his vehicle form, and obviously when you combine a Devastator, the robot unfortunately was in the movie. Yeah, I mean, that's what I meant. The robot mode wasn't in the movie. Like, obviously can't do a transformation, but something showing off all the cool articulation or something a bit more cinematic. It's just not what I do. I don't know. Maybe the bug will bite me one day, and I'll start doing animations. But oof, that's a lot more to need. You'll catch up one of these days. Fair enough, I'm bro. They could easily find a way to get. Yeah, I could see the argument for a bit disappointing. The head's not wide enough, so he's got kind of a narrow head. That's one thing I like about Split, is Split makes a really nice head, but of course, you know, the cost of a masterpiece figure. You know, when something is greater than the sum of its parts, this seems to be the exact opposite of that. It's the lesser than each constituent item. Well, that's because they did such a good job with the robot mode, so there's a temptation to display these in robot mode because they're pretty good robot modes. I don't know. I don't know about the green paint. There's a guy, Harris Lurio. Yes, Harris Lurio is very good. He does like little stories in stop motion, but you notice he's not very prolific. It takes a lot of planning and like set design and stuff. There's no way I'm doing set design. I love Harris Lurio though. He's very cool. And someone actually asked about like, hey, how come you didn't do like the combination, you know, the merging into Devastator like they did in the movie? And my response was a link to a video where a guy did it, where he basically rotoscoped the scene from the movie, and it looked like a real pain in the ass. Do a guide to doing stop motion? I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Maybe one of these days. I don't have any secrets, but I'm kind of also not a, you know, show you how to stop motion kind of guy. I'm just a Transformers kind of guy. I mean, it's a hobby. It's what I'm doing because I'm interested in it. If I was interested in explaining stop motion to people, I would do that, I guess. It's no particular, I'll lay it out for you. I use a program called Dragon Frame, which is actually used, Kubo and the Two Strings, I think they use Dragon Frame for at least part of that. It's a real stop motion software. I mostly use it just for the capture aspect because I got really used to using Adobe Premiere Pro to edit the frames together. And I probably, there's probably someone that's, like a Adobe CS6 master that would look at what I'm doing and be like, how come you don't do it in this program or whatever? But I have a workflow that works for me, and it gives me the timing for the frame counts. I have kind of like a set of rules in my head. Like if I have, I have like the stop frame and the stop frame between a movement. And if in between that movement there's, say, 3 frames that I've shot, then I'll make that a half-second or 6-frame sequence. So each frame will be 2 frames. And if it's 4, then I'll make them each 3, which is a full half-second movement. And then if it's 5, I'll make it 12, 6 is 12, 7 is 12, 8 is 12, 9 is 12, 10 is 12, 11 is 12, and 12 is 12 generally. If it's 12 frames where there's a lot of movement, sometimes I'll stretch it out to like 18 frames, which is 3/4 of a second. It just depends. And I do generally half-second pauses. But if it's like a minor part, like if like this moves and then this moves, just a little, if there's like 2 parts that are very closely related moving, then sometimes I'll just do a 6-frame or 1/4 second pause. So I'm shooting in Dragon Frame and I'm editing in Premiere Pro. Your mileage may vary depending on and I use a DSLR, a cheap Canon 40D camera, because it has a feature called Live View that Dragon Frame can interact with, where I can see the view from the camera all the time, and I can just compare it using something called onion skinning. It's like a ghost image, but I can compare it to the previous frame so that I can make sure that nothing moves. There's also a button I like to use that toggles the 2 frames, so I can make sure that there's no movement, because I'm looking for just the movement I want, not any additional movement. That's part of my problem with trying to shoot MPM 10 Starscream is it's just a mess. I'll have to lay it down. I'm thinking I have a sequence, but how do I shoot it? I don't know. Well, Spooky Stone points out, says, I honestly wish they would have put more Devastator in the movie. He was cool, but he was just a glorified vacuum cleaner. True. It's kind of true of every robot in the Michael Bay movies, though. Michael Bay doesn't give a crap about making the robots characters, other than making them like weird stereotypes. But, they don't have character arcs per se, and I don't know. They're not very good movies. I guess to be fair, the humans don't have very good character arcs either. It's not a writer's movie. It's just a stupid, spectacular special effects extravaganza. They do that. Yeah, that's tricky. The extra frames. So Imbro said all these new AI advances could add some extra frames to smooth things out. I don't doubt it. It would be interesting to take just reference frames and then have like some sort of algorithm do tweening, what they call tweening, which is filling in the middle frames. Now, generally, what you'll do is like a lead animator in like probably in stop motion too, but it's more storyboarded because you have to actually work with a physical object. But in classical animation, you had what was called a keyframe. And so, which is kind of like excerpts from the storyboard. It's like very carefully drawn. Like, this is where we want to land for this scene. This is going to happen. This frame here. And then they would have animators do what they call tweening, which is developing the frames that go between each of the keyframes. It would be a real boon to speeding up this process if I could just do keyframes and then have it fill in like liquid smooth animations. I even toyed with the idea, like what if I got like some kind of 3D scanner, and then I 3D scanned, but I'd have to take them apart. But you could 3D scan them into like some sort of CAD program and then do all the animation in CGI. That sounds like way more work than I'm prepared to do, so that's not going to happen. But maybe someday there'll just be some AI program you can buy off the shelf that'll just magically take care of that for you. I don't doubt. Yeah, you'll have to watch your language, I'm bro. You can rephrase. Spooky Stone. Okay, those are not good movies. I enjoy them because it's just fun to watch some explosions. Yeah, it's escapism. They're just goofy, silly movies. And that's the way it is. Yeah, you don't like that green paint? I don't know. It's supposed to be the unearthly green light as it expands and sucks. I don't know. I don't know if it's ever called betweening. I've heard it called tweening. Right, or you'd have to reconstruct where the joints are, like by hand, after you scanned in the static 3D model. And at that point, you're not necessarily going to get it right or perfect. You can get some great articulation out of it at that point because you can just have things clip, and collide with parts could collide with other parts, unlike real life. But at that point, you're not really making a video that shows how the thing transforms anymore. You're just making a CGI. You may as well make a much better CGI figure than you can make from a toy. I don't know. It's like this slippery slope. I don't want to get dragged down into trying to 3D scan this. I've been getting away with the stop motion for the most part. You get something like NPM 10 Starscream, and I'm like, I wish I could just make that thing stand up in a way that you can't do in real life. Oh yeah, it's absolutely called tweening because of between. Sure, you are right. No testicles, 0 of 10. Would not recommend. Yeah, there's an add-on kit you can get that'll give him his idiotic wrecking balls. I mean, they're funny if you like that sort of thing. If you like that kind of lowbrow humor. Anywho, that covers the figure. We've had a spirited discussion. I don't really have anything else to say. Chosen Prime is sending me his own personal copy of G Creation, and I don't know what it's called. It's the new G Creation toy. Let's look it up. Let's go to thechosenprime.com, and then let's go to brand, and then let's scroll down to G Creation. G Creation. For some reason it's plural here. I don't think that's right, but whatever. And it's, they called it, well, where is it? There it is. Wrath. G Creation MTST01 Wrath. Because G Creation decided to stop doing IDW, even though they teased what would have been an amazing IDW Megatron, and then never made one. Now they're going to do movie figures. But they did like a really fancy and probably very large Grimlock from Age of Extinction. So Chosen Prime is being kind enough to loan me that. Consider them as a possibility for your shopping needs. They ship fast. I don't know if any of you guys have ever dealt with someone like Big Bad Toy Store. I mean, obviously, if you get into discussion of like the overseas Chinese sellers, you can get pretty good prices from them. But you know, you're gonna wait like a couple of weeks at least to get your figure, and even those guys don't necessarily ship right away. And Big Bad Toy Stores, like the big retailer in North America, but if you order something from them, it will take 3 to 4 days to actually start shipping. They do not care about your eagerness to have the figure. But if you order from Chosen Prime, those guys will ship it. I mean, obviously, if you order at like 5 p.m., you'd probably miss the boat. But if you order during the day, it will ship that day. And they go U.S. priority mail, so it will take, 3 days. I mean, they're in Arizona and I'm on the East Coast, and it takes 2 to 3 days, sometimes 2. But at the most 3 days to reach me. So I can order something on Tuesday and have it by Friday. So they've been really good for filling in gaps. But I was never going to buy this G Creation Wrath. It's just a little too steep for my blood. I'm not that into movie toys that I want to spend that much money, but it should be a really cool figure to see. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to arrive in time for this weekend because it's not using the regular shipping method. It's using his, I think he uses a cheaper shipping method to send me samples or to send me loaners. So it's probably going to show up Monday. So expect that next weekend. This weekend, I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'll try to flail my way through MPM 10 Starscream. I feel like I should shoot it, but I've been trying to figure out how I can manage it. Or I don't know, I could skip a weekend for the first time in a year and a half. I don't know. I'll think of something to do. No, I don't tend to get the Wei Zhangs. They're cool and all, but usually I've kind of seen the mold by then. Wei Zhang adds a couple of extra nice enhancements to the transformation, but it's hard to introduce the figure because Wei Zhang has basically stolen most of the design. So they save a ton of money by just stealing most of the design. They don't have to pay designers. They pay a guy to, spruce up the transformation design, maybe add a gimmick or two. But I'm a little on the fence. I wouldn't know how to present it. It'd be unfair to take something that's like 90% Hasbro's design or Takaro's design and say, oh, this is a Wei Zhang figure. It's mostly Takara or Hastak. Plus, they got raided and shut down, so it's going to be a problem. They'll just resurrect again under a different name doing the same thing. That's just how it works over there in China. It turned out I read an article about, I think it was Wei Zhang or it was Black Apple or something, but they were talking about how like the designer was a guy that was like doing that. He was making 3D renders of the existing toys from Hasbro, and then he was making his alterations, and then they were producing them, and that designer was getting like something like 15% of the revenue or something, 15% of the profits in exchange for his design work. And apparently, a lot of those Wei Zhangs were like that same. It was like the same guy, the same designer, digitizing the toy and kind of reverse engineering it. At least that's what I heard. I prefer original designs. So Hasbro. Occasionally, I do things outside of Transformers, like I did some of those Beast boxes. Those are original designs. They're so fun. I just got one recently, in fact, that turns into a spider. If you haven't seen them, 52 Toys is the name of the company, like 52 Toys, and their line of toys is called Beast Box, and they're fun. They're super awesome. They're about $25 a piece. It's a box about the size of a Rubik's Cube, and one box turns into a fancy bird, and another box turns into a rhinoceros, and another box turns into a mammoth. It's very clever. It's everything I used to like about the old Soundwave tapes. They're all the same thing, but this one turns into a bird, and this one turns into a panther, and this one turns into a dude. That's fun stuff. I like when you have like the same exact sort of box alt mode. Something appealing about that. Anywho, we have had some additional discussion. I'm going to give you guys a 2-minute warning. If you want to bring anything up, you better do it right now. Right now. I switched out my components for MMC's Bruticus. So now he's like got the toy head and the toy silver chest. That's pretty sweet. I'll have to switch it back because of what I'm planning to do for the video. Probus is on the way from China. It's landed at JFK Customs, but it could be a week before it gets released from Customs. And sometimes it doesn't seem like it was released from Customs, and then suddenly it like teleports to my local post office. So I don't know when I'm getting that. In my fantasy, I get it this week, and I can do the first of a couple of MMC Bruticus videos that I want to do, but I don't think it's going to be this week, so I'm going to have to think of something else to do. I could do Studio Series Sentinel Prime. I just got Studio Series Blitzwing, which is clearly Starscream, but they don't care about names in those movies. Blitzwing is not very complicated, but he's an elegant little figure. It'd be kind of cool to show the way he transforms. Do I think Hasbro actually secretly endorsed third party, not KO, since it kind of shows a lot of love for the brand and enhances people's love for it? I think, for example, recently HasLab was doing their Unicron last year, and Zeta came in with their Unicron, which ultimately became 01 Studio Cell. And it really pissed off Hasbro, and even though they don't have much of a legal leg to stand on, they kind of cease and desist Zeta. And then Zeta had to kind of like turn around and make a shell company called 01 Studio and release the figure there, and then release the head and the wings separately. So Hasbro must have a little bit of a legal leg to stand on when it comes to likenesses, when it looks too much like the figure. I think for that reason that Nice figure, the super sexy version of RC, that figure they skipped out on. The original renders from like a year ago showed it with like a very RC, like Princess Leia head, and they got rid of that head and just did kind of a generic anime head. So I think they were feeling the pressure too from Hasbro from having a likeness too close to, of course, it's the figure's releasing now at the same time that we're on the verge of Takara's version of RC releasing. So I think when the third-party companies like actually overlap with the Masterpiece releases, I think that makes Hasbro and Takara a little bit uptight. I don't know how much like of a legal leg they have to stand on, but it does make them. So they don't entirely have a friendly relationship with the third-party companies. Obviously, the whole idea behind third-party, regardless of what anyone says, is that they are not party to any kind of legal agreement. So if you have the IP license, and people are going to... Let me put it this way. The president from probably longer back than most people remember, but George W. Bush, he used to all the time pronounce nuclear as nuclear. And, people would be like, oh, that's so ignorant. It's not nuclear, it's nuclear. But it's like, well, if enough people say nuclear, then it's just another word where you're like, how come it's not spelled how it's pronounced? Like knight. God only knows how, like knight, like a, knight in shining armor. I mean, that has way too many light letters, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. By the same token, if everyone in the Transformers community insists that like the second party is the buyer, which makes no sense, you don't have a legal agreement with Hasbro to buy their figures, you're not party to any kind of legal agreement. And the whole idea behind first party, second party, third party is to describe people in the context of a legal agreement. So Hasbro doesn't license anyone to make transforming toys, but as earlier pointed out by I'm Bro, you have the Flame Toys has been licensed by Hasbro to make Transformer figures that don't transform. They're just very high-end action figures. So in that case, Hasbro is the first party in the legal agreement, and Flame Toys is the second party in the legal agreement. And anyone outside of that two-party legal agreement is a third party, which is why they were... I've been in debates with people online about this. People insist that the buyer is the second party, which is just idiotic, because there's no legal... You're not required to buy the figure from Hasbro. But if you want to make towels with Transformers on them, you have to be in a legal agreement with Hasbro. And once again, Hasbro is holder of the IP as first party in the legal contract, and the people making the towels are the second party. So any second party supplier is someone who has a legal agreement with Hasbro to make items related to that intellectual property. And anyone third party, which is just about everyone else in the universe, are people that don't have a legal agreement with Hasbro to leverage their intellectual property. So all these third party companies, they get away with it because Hasbro can't, as I understand it, they can't really copyright or trademark a likeness. Something that looks like Trailbreaker, you can't sue that company. So MMC can make their own version of Trailbreaker, no problem. They just can't put an Autobot logo on it, which is copyrightable or trademarkable. And they can't call it Trailbreaker because a lot of times Hasbro is holding the what is it? The trademark for that word. So they have to come up with weird names for third-party figures. But the whole idea of them being third-party is they aren't in a binding legal contract with the holder of the intellectual property. And then people get into saying like fourth-party, but it's a way of defining like, okay, it's third-party, but it's also kind of a knockoff, but at that point it doesn't make any sense because, you could have a legal contract between one person and another person, first party, second party, and then the other like 7 billion people on the face of the earth are all third party because they're not part of this legal agreement. But take from that what you will. Granted, if everyone in the fandom insists that second party is the buyer, which is dumb, and it leaves you with, I guess you have to call like the guy selling the licensed towels a licensee, and he's not a party at all. If everyone agrees, just like nuclear, eventually that just becomes the definition. So I'm cutting across the generally perceived meaning of those terms with my own interpretation of those terms. But I can be wrong if I want to be. I don't know if I got your name right at all. I was reading it also as I'm Bro. Did I actually read it as Earn Bro? It's so hard to... I mean, that is an IRN, right? But I interpret it as I'm, so I'm sorry if I think I got it wrong. I think you've given me credit for something I didn't do. Your comments on Unique Toys and DX9, I don't know what my comments would be. Unique Toys and DX9 seem to work together. They seem to share designers. And they're making fantastic figures. I really like the music used in your videos. It kind of reminds me of... Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of what I thought. Like, back when the original Transformers movie came out, when I was growing up, it was like 80s hair metal type music. You got the touch! And, so I looked for, like, metal. Like, I kind of like that, anthem metal, 80s hair band kind of metal. So I found in the YouTube media library, which is like songs you can use without worrying about licensing or having your having the like if I got permission from a band called Power Glove to use their cover of like the Transformers sort of theme song. And all the videos I have that I use that on, and I used it for like the original Optimus Prime video, the MP10 video, and the original MP36 video, or one of the reshoots of that. Those videos, I don't get the money for those. Power Glove gets the money for those, and I could probably send them a copy of the email I got from Power Glove saying it was okay to like use their music as long as I gave them credit, and then I just don't feel like fighting that fight. I'm just going to use the YouTube library, and I found this guy, Ethan Mikesell, had donated or sold a bunch of his short songs to the YouTube library, and those are the songs I use. Yeah, a lot of times I'll just point people to the description because I go to the trouble of writing it down. I did philosophy at uni. Words are just placeholders for meaning. They can mean whatever you want them. Doesn't mean you will be interpreted right, but... So... Earn Bro. Weird. That IRN is really hard to see as IRN, though. Is that... I can't even... Yeah, you can download those songs from the YouTube music library. If you pretend you're a creator and you go to the creator dashboard at the bottom on the left-hand side, there's like music, and you could search for Ethan. Mike Sell is a little hard to spell, but I'll spell it in the chat for you. How about that? I'll go Ethan Mike Sell. So that's how it's spelled. It is IRN. That is almost impossible to tell. RN and M look so much identical. That's funny. Anyway, till the day I die, second party is licensed. Third party is not licensed. First party is intellectual property holder. Till the day I die. But you guys can think whatever you want to. I will see everyone later. If Shark's not going to be here anymore, there's just no reason to be here. I'm happy to interact with you guys. Appreciate you asking such good questions. I am going to head out, though. It's almost time for dinner. It's not a problem. You had more to say. Happy to have someone say something. Good night, everybody. This weekend will be something. I'll think of something.